But I wanted to start with an idea that I see linking a lot of different aspects of the modern culture that we are in. And sadly, I was thinking quite a lot about it in the wake of the murder of 2 innocent Jewish people in the streets of Washington, D.C., because they happen to have the gall to be Jewish. And that you guys know I'm a big history fan. And the reason I love history is because nothing is ever new. There is always a reflection in some way of a past historical story that is in some way slightly different, but in many ways evocative of what has happened before. And I want to do a little bit of a deep dive here off the top because I'm seeing all these different connecting tendrils that to me are telling us that we are on a path that we have to reject because I don't like where it's leading us. And yes, Trump, November 5th, 2024 was incredibly important, and there are lines of demarcation suggesting that we are rejecting that path. But I actually saw a connection between what happened in Washington, D.C. and what we're seeing happen in the identity politics culture arena in which we all live now. And so let me kind of explain exactly where these connections are and how I see them all creating a situation that is not ideal for where we are headed. October 7th, 2023 was the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. It's important because many of the people out there who have been lecturing me and have been lecturing you about being on the right side of history have actually managed, I think, quite thoroughly to embrace the wrong side of history. They think that they are history's heroes, and they're actually history's villains. And what I mean by that is this identity politics woke culture that was created is defined almost exclusively by the color of your skin. And this is not new. I'm not someone who's going to sit around and say, hey, racism didn't exist in the past. But the idea that you should be defined by the color of your skin, and that in a larger context, it defines whether or not you are good or evil in some way, has become deeply embedded in the Democrat Party now. And it has become an article of faith on the left for sure in this country. And I think October 7th opened a lot of your eyes to this because suddenly Jewish people who are the most profoundly attacked throughout history, certainly for the last several thousand years, they found out that because they happened to look white, that they were considered to be white. And when all of the people from Gaza came in on October 7th and slaughtered and raped and kidnapped innocent Jewish people, I think many Jewish people looked around and said, wait a minute, how is it that we are seen as the bad guy here when we were directly attacked on October 7th? And the only reason why they are seen as the bad guy is because they are seen as white and the Palestinians are seen as brown. And in this modern identity politics world that has been created, I was thinking about it in the context of the South African white farmers who represent 7% of the population in South Africa. We have not swung from, if you're black in America, you are a second-class citizen, to equality. We have swung from, if you're white in America, in the minds of many people on the left, you are a problem. And it is a pernicious racial identity politics that has been created where the idea is only that white people are bad now and brown-skinned people are good. And I don't know that anybody really elucidates this because it makes people uncomfortable to have a conversation like this. But it actually undergirds the entirety of what's going on in the United States and to a large extent around the world. And so there is this idea that if you are white, you are a problem, and anything that is done to you is justified if it's being done by someone who is a minority or is seen as brown-skinned. And I don't think we're doing enough to talk about it. And I don't think we're doing enough to have a real conversation about it. And I think the world would change immensely if we could, and I tweeted this out, but I've been thinking about it a lot, if we would adopt basically two truths that I believe are self-evident. And I'll start with the first. It is white, black, Asian, and Hispanic people are all capable of being racist. There has been embedded critical race theory, this idea that only white people can be racist. If you decided that because of the color of your skin, you could never do anything wrong, how would that change the way that you behaved? And we've got people hugely different backgrounds listening to us right now, and you're nodding along. Because if you're black, you're like, yeah, I know quite a few people who are black racist. And if you're Hispanic, you're nodding along. You're saying, yeah, I know people who are racist and Hispanic. And if you're Asian, you're nodding along. You're saying, yeah, in my family, there are people who are racist. And white people, yeah, certainly there are racist white people too. All races are capable of racism. And if you will adopt that, and a lot of people would disagree with that, if you will adopt that premise, the next step should be, let's judge individuals, as kind of a famous guy said about 60 years ago, on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And what you are seeing far too often in America today is incident happens. And there almost immediately is a defense of that incident based on the race of the people involved. I was thinking about it in the context of what we saw happen down in Texas. Young black teenage kid stabs a white kid in the heart, raises $500,000. I was thinking it in the context of much less serious, but some of you probably saw this go viral. White mom in a playground racially insults a young black kid, and she also raises massive amounts of money. And the world in which we are creating this schematic is actually in no way beneficial. It's actually just taking us back to the 1950s in America. And we have this idea, oh, well, we have advanced and there's all these different aspects of life that have changed. And that's certainly true. And there are many positive things. But again, from a historical perspective, a lot of the arguments that you are starting to hear in the United States actually sound like a lot of the arguments that were made in the 1950s in the United States. And so when I look at what happened in Washington, D.C., when I look at the stabbing that happened in Texas, as we're getting into this Memorial Day weekend here, what I would suggest we need to have, and we should have, is a conversation about personal responsibility, and it should be divorced from anybody's race. Because to me, the least interesting thing about someone is the choices that they didn't make. Nobody chooses their gender. I know. Trust me. We all know that's mostly BS, right? Nobody chooses their gender. Nobody chooses their race. To allow yourself to be defined by an identity that you didn't choose is actually, to me, the antithesis of what the United States should represent. So I'm going to open up phone lines. I think probably a lot of you are feeling this too. And this idea of deciding who is the hero and who is the villain based on the color of their skin is not a new one. but it's actually dragging us back into the 1950s. And I think a lot of Jewish people are looking around in the wake of the double murder that happened in cold blood on the streets of Washington, D.C., and they're seeing that these chants globalize the Intifada that all of these college kids were a part of is actually spreading. And it's pernicious. And it's nasty. And it's all rooted in the concept, which is older than any of us, that your guilt or innocence, that your good or evil nature is defined not by the choices that you make, but by the color of your skin. And I think the legacy media is a huge part of this. Frankly, I think a lot of left-wing white people have bought into this idea, which is wild. I don't know that we've ever seen anything like it, where one racial group decides that their race is evil. And I just think this is a big conversation point as we sit here rolling into Memorial Day weekend, because I'm seeing different parts of it pop up throughout the culture. And heck, I even, at the bottom half of this hour, will analogize it to the world of sports. And I think a lot of you are going to say, wow, this is maybe more toxic than I had thought, as it pertains to how Caitlin Clark, of all people, might be treated in the WNBA, and how, to me, we are going backwards at a time when we should be going forwards. We'll talk about all this, and I will break it down for you in further detail, but I'm also going to open up phone lines and let you guys weigh in first half of the show today. But in the meantime, 5 years ago, if you bought gold because you thought it was a smart investment, it didn't take long to see you were right. The price of gold back then was just over $2,000 an ounce. Today, same gold, $3,200 an ounce, a 60% increase in value. Buying gold's a great investment today. It makes sense to own if you're seeing the value of the dollar decline. Why not put gold in your overall portfolio? It's the best hedge against inflation out there, and it has been skyrocketing in value because throughout history, gold has retained value. You go back in time hundreds of years, gold has continued to be a cultural currency that is of incredible value. Here's what I want you to do. If you haven't done a lot of research on this, I want you to go to Birch Gold Group and check and see what they are offering to you so that you could make gold a part of your portfolio. You can hold both gold and silver, tax-sheltered accounts. Birch Gold can help you even convert an existing IRA or 401k into gold. If you're nervous about the larger market out there, why not go with a tangible physical asset that has been shown to retain its value and increase over time? With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of thankful customers, you can text my name, Clay, to the number 989898. Again, you can also go to birchgold.com/Clay. That's birchgold.com/Clay. But pull out your phones right now and text 989898 and use my name, Clay, and look into whether gold should make sense in your portfolio. I think you will find that it makes a ton of sense. That's 989898 Clay, birchgold.com/Clay.